You just said it.
Correct. I said yes. I said some of the Muslim cultures that we're seeing from the Middle East.
Well, just to be, I'm trying to work out what you believe. So you think the Muslim culture is an inferior culture?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Wow.
It's just so.
What's up, everybody? Jackson here, and this Piers Morgan interview with Priya Patel is one of those moments where someone gets a chance to walk back a viral comment and instead doubles straight down on camera. Patel had posted that immigration without assimilation is invasion, and when pressed, live on which cultures she considers inferior, she named Muslim culture directly on tape, twice. Radio host Brian Shapiro then asked the question that exposes the whole framing. Would she ever say the same thing about Indian culture given her own father is an Indian immigrant? Her answer, an immediate no, is the moment worth sitting with. I want to break down what was actually said, what the inconsistency reveals, and what the real polling data shows about American attitudes on immigration, because it's very different from what gets amplified. Stick with me, get that like in, get subscribed, because we don't let moments like this get lost. Now, let's get into it.
Are equal. Which cultures, in your view, are inferior?
I mean, quite a few, to be honest with you. I'm not going to sit here and call out people's specific cultures, however.
Well, which ones? Which cultures?
I mean,
why not? Call it out.
Yeah.
Which ones?
Sure, fine. Afghanistan would be a good example.
That's a country, not a culture.
Well, of course, the culture that comes from Afghanistan. We can talk about the Muslim culture that comes from the Middle Eastern countries. I would argue that those aren't particularly equal. I mean, we see a lot of...
So the whole Muslim culture of what, over a billion, well, actually nearly 2 billion people.
I didn't say the whole Muslim culture.
Well, you said Muslim.
You just said it.
Correct. I said some of the Muslim cultures that we're seeing from the Middle East.
Well, just to be, I'm trying to work out what you believe. So you think the Muslim culture is an inferior culture?
In a lot of ways, yes.
Wow.
It's just so ridiculous, Piers.
Okay.
This is so ridiculous.
Brian, I think we're getting to why this comment went viral, why both those comments went viral.
First of all, it's extremely offensive. I would ask her how many Muslim people does she know, number one. Number two, when you take an entire group of people,
quite a few, and they're actually very westernized.
No, I didn't interrupt you. I did not interrupt you. Please let me finish. When you take an entire group of people, when you take an entire group of people and say they are lesser than us, that is pure bigotry. And I'm not surprised.
Actually, I stated in that video my exact. You made an incorrect statement about my position.
You just thought Afghanistan was a culture, so don't talk to me about statements that people make that are not correct. Okay?
Countries have culture, Brian.
Pierce, here's the issue we have here. Okay? And I'm going to instill politics into this. When you go on her social media page, she echoes a lot of similar things that MAGA Republicans echo, taking an entire group of people like the Laura Loomers of the world, saying they all should be deported, or in this case, taking all Muslims and saying they're inferior to Americans. She has a MAGA hat on her social media page.
Not what I said.
And what she does is she caters to MAGA Republicans in her base. It's why she gets all the views she gets. And I think it's extremely offensive, I'll say it once again, to take an entire group of people. That would be, how would you feel if somebody said everybody that is Indian is inferior to Americans? You would say that's racist. That's a terrible thing to say.
Well, hang on. Let me ask the question.
I would never say that.
Well, let me ask the question. Would you say that about Indians, Priya?
Of course, and I would not. Of course not. I would never say that about any race or group of people.
You literally just said it about Muslims.
You just said it about Muslims.
You couldn't have been clearer. I gave you the chance to clarify, and you clarified it.
And that's perfectly fine. Look, I do think America has a superior culture, and I would like to
view, and it's perfectly fine that we think it's a bigoted view and very hypocritical if you then say that other vast countries like India are exempt from your bigotry, because Well, guess
No,
what? Your father happens to be Indian.
That's of course never what I said, Piers.
No, but people think you're a hypocrite.
You guys are both taking things completely out of context.
They say your father's an Indian, but here you are condemning all Muslims as somehow culturally inferior.
That's fine. I've been very critical. I've been very critical about Indian immigration to this country too. I'm not picking and choosing.
But when you
one
say
group
that,
of
when you
people,
say that some
I simply
cultures are less equal, you're a Christian. I understand. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, that's correct.
So
and if you would let me clarify exactly what I said.
As a fellow Christian, well, hang on. As a fellow Christian, I thought the teachings were quite clear that all men are created equally. Where does this sit with that?
Correct, Pearson. Did you watch? I don't know if either of you watched the entirety of that video where I was talking about culture. I specifically did state that all people are created equal under the eyes of God and the law, of course. However, we do have a society that we're supposed to uphold here in America, and like you, Pierce, in England, right? You don't want a lot of foreign invaders coming into your country and completely causing the collapse of your society and of your country. If people are blessed enough to come to America,
so would you,
or come to
out
England,
of interest, to
have
stop this invasion, as you put it, would you deport all foreigners from the United States?
No, I would not deport all foreigners from the United States. I would certainly deport all of the illegal foreigners that are here in the United States.
What about those that just didn't sign up to your worldview of what the culture should be?
No, I don't necessarily think that they should all be deported from the United States, but I think we do need a very slow and if not a halt on immigration as a whole currently, so that we can, as a society and allow our government to continue to help these people assimilate to our culture, actually fix our immigration system so that it works with our country, so that we can keep it intact as it is, and honestly, maybe get back to what we were, originally founded on.
I think we'll leave it there. Brian and Priya, thank you both very much.
Let's be direct about what happened here, because there's no ambiguity in the transcript. Piers asked Patel directly which cultures she considers inferior. She named Afghanistan, then Muslim culture from Middle Eastern countries broadly, and when pressed a second time on whether she believes Muslim culture specifically is inferior, she said yes. In a lot of ways, that's not an out-of-context clip or a gotcha built on parsing a single word. It's a direct answer to a direct question, repeated when she had the chance to clarify or walk it back. Calling an entire religious and cultural group of nearly 2 billion people inferior is bigotry. That's not a matter of interpretation. It's simply what the word describes, attributing collective inferiority to a group based on their religion or ethnicity. Naming that plainly isn't an insult. It's an accurate description of the statement itself. The moment that actually exposes the deeper problem, though, is the question about Indian culture. Patel's father is an Indian immigrant, and when asked directly whether she'd apply the same inferior culture framing to Indians, her answer was an immediate, unequivocal no. That's worth sitting with, regardless of your views on immigration policy broadly. If a standard for judging entire cultures as lesser only ever gets applied to groups outside your own family, it was never really a principle about culture at all. It's special pleading dressed up as one. On the broader policy question buried underneath this, whether immigration without assimilation poses a real challenge to a receiving country's cohesion. That's a legitimate policy debate that serious people have on its own terms, separate from ranking entire religions as inferior. Patel's own answers muddied that distinction rather than clarifying it, since she moved between talking about assimilation policy and directly ranking a religious culture as lesser, which are two very different claims. On the polling data cited, a Gallup survey reportedly showing around 73% of Americans view immigration positively and only about 29% want it decreased. That's a specific checkable figure worth verifying directly against the actual Gallup release. Rather than taking it secondhand from any commentary, including this one, if accurate, it's a useful reminder that the loudest, most viral takes on a topic don't necessarily reflect where most people in the country actually land. Here's what I'd leave you with. There's a real difference between debating immigration policy, which is fair game and happens across the political spectrum in good faith, and declaring an entire religion's culture inferior on television. The first is a policy argument. The second is prejudice. And calling it what it is isn't itself an attack, it's just accuracy. So tell me, do you think there's a version of the assimilation argument that doesn't collapse into this kind of bigotry? Or does it inevitably end up there once you're asked to name which cultures you mean? Let me know in the comments. And if you want more of these breakdowns that hold people to their own stated standards, get subscribed. Because that's exactly what this channel is here for.